In Brachot, page 32. 32b, excuse me. There you go. So it says, Ama Rav Yochanan Kol Kohen Shahar Ragad Nefesh. Did I skip something here?
No,
I did. I'm sorry, I skipped something. I'm on the wrong page. I was on the wrong page already. So it says, Ama Rabbi Elazar Gedola Tefillah. That's where we stopped, I believe. Gedola Tefillah Mimasim Tovim. If not, we'll do it again. That Tefillah is greater than good actions. Why? She'en lecha gadol b'ma'asim tovim yotz Moshe Rabbeinu. Because there was nobody greater than Moshe Rabbeinu in his actions. V'afal piken. Even so, lo ne'ena elet b'tefillah. He was only answered via tefillah. Shneamar al tosef davar daber elai. This is what we talked about last year. Don't continue to add on to your words to me. But in the end, God told him, go to the top of the mountain and see the land. Fine. Amar Rabbi Elazar, I referred to last week for that one. Amar Rabbi Elazar, another statement of Rabbi Elazar was, Gedola tefillah yotir min hakabarnot, that tefillah is greater than sacrifices. How do we know? Shneamra, because it says in Isaiah, Lama li rov zivchechem. Did I ask basically for all of these sacrifices? And then it says later on in that same verse, "Parishchem kapeichem," that you spread your hands, in other words, in prayer, and I won't listen. In order to really understand this, I decided I'm going to read to you the book of Isaiah, in context, so you know what's going on here. So in the first chapter, it's not so far we have to go. In the first chapter, it says, the vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Yehuda and Yerushalayim in the days of Uzziah, Yoham, Achaz, and Chezkiah, the kings of Judah. He said, hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for Hashem has spoken. Children have I raised and exalted, but they have rebelled against me. An ox knows his owner, and a donkey his master's trough. But Israel does not know, my people do not comprehend. Woe, they are a sinful nation, a people weighed down by iniquity, evil, offspring, destructive children. They have forsaken Hashem, they have angered the Holy One of Israel, and they have turned their back on him. For what have you been smitten, since you continue to act perversely? Each head is smitten with sickness, each heart with infirmity. From the sole of the foot to the head, nothing in him is whole, only injury, bruise, and festering wound. They have not been treated, and they have not been bandaged, and the wound has not been softened with oil. What he's saying basically is, you guys have sinned so badly that, and you haven't done anything, you haven't tried to fix it up. Your country is desolate, your cities are burned with fire. As for your land, strangers consume its yield in your presence. It is desolate as if overturned by foreigners. The daughter of Zion is left like a booth in a vineyard, like a shed in a field of gourds, like a city besieged. Had not Hashem, master of the legions, left us a trace of the remnant, we would have been like Sodom, we would have resembled Amorah. Hear the word of Hashem, O chiefs of Sodom, give ear to the teachings of our people, O God of people of Amorah. So, okay, first thing you're hearing is God, via Isaiah, is not very happy with Bnei Yisrael. There has been already this law of destruction going on. They're sinning, and Hashem gives this, and Isaiah now gives this famous speech. Why do I need your numerous sacrifices, says Hashem? I am sated with elevation offerings of rams and fat of fatlings, the blood of bulls, sheep and goats I do not desire. When you come to appear before me, who sought this from your hand to trample my courtyards? Bring your worthless meal offering no longer. It is an incense of abomination to me. As for the new moon and Sabbath and your calling of convocations, I cannot abide mendacity with solemn assembly. My soul detests your new moons and your appointed times. They have become a burden upon me. I am weary bearing them. Okay, so that's number one. It says your sacrifices are worthless. Why?
Because you're still sinning, right?
Because you're still sinning. So you're basically having a nice barbecue at my expense. You're killing animals for no reason. If you would do teshuvah, if you would have done something like that, then those sacrifices mean something. But if not, they mean nothing.
People are bringing sacrifices because they're commanded to bring for certain sins, but they're not stopping the sinning. Is that what's going on?
More than that, because there's not only sin offerings, all the offerings. May it be the tamid, may it be the meal offerings. Some of them are just brought because I want to bring them. So what happens is I sin and I pay you off. I do confession. I pay you off, and then I go do it again. Okay, so I'm not interested.
Do we read this on Yom Kippur?
It could be
Haftorah.
You got me on that one. I forget what we read. It sounds. I'm not sure if we read Yom Kippur. It could be. I'm not sure. Yom Kippur. What do we read? We read Yonah.
Yeah.
And then I'm not sure. You got me on that one. We read it plenty of times, but I'm not sure when. This is for Devarim. First of all, it's for the Parsha Devarim. We read the Parsha Devarim, which would make sense, because Devarim is when God is telling, is the beginning of Mishnah Torah. God's telling us off. Moshe's telling us off. So this is good for Isaiah to tell us off too. Okay, but the point is that right now he attacks sacrifices. Then, in verse 15, that was 11 through 14. In verse 15, he says, when you spread your hands in prayer, I will hide my eyes from you. Even if you were to intensify your prayer, I will not listen. Your hands are replete with blood. And wash yourselves, purify yourselves, remove the evil of your deeds before my eyes. Cease doing evil, learn to do good, seek justice, vindicate the victim, render justice to the orphan, take up the grievance of the widow. If you do that, I'll listen. But until then, I'm not going to. That's what God's saying. The point is, we have first, and now we're getting to Rabbi Elazar. First, we had Isaiah was speaking about sacrifices. Your sacrifices, who needs them? Yeah. Then suddenly, God says, spread out your hands, and when you spread your hands out in prayer, I won't listen to them. So what the rabbis learn from this is a very important thing, and we also, when we're learning Torah, have to understand this. Whatever is mentioned first is not as important as what's mentioned last. That's why we have this saying, Achron, Achron Chaviv. That which is mentioned last is the dearest, as it were. So if sacrifices would have been better than prayer, so prayer would have been mentioned first, and then sacrifices. I don't need, when you spread your hands, it would have said, when you spread your hands in prayer, I will hide my face, I will hide my eyes from you. And then it would have said, and when you offer sacrifice, who asked for them? But since it says sacrifices first and then prayer, from there, Rabbi Elazar in our Gemara is learning that Yoter, I'm in the wrong book here. I have 3 books there. It says, Yoter, Gedola tefillah yoter min karbanot. That tefillah prayer is greater than even karbanot. That's how he's learning it. Because Isaiah spoke about sacrifices first and prayer second. From there we learn that prayer has more power than even karbanos. Doesn't mean that I shouldn't bring the korban, because God commanded me to bring the korban. So I have to bring it, but I have to bring it with the right intent. If I don't bring it with the right intent, then it's a disgusting, despicable thing.
So that's saying that even when the third Beis HaMikdash is established, we still have to do that, in contrast to what other...
Correct. When the third Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt...
of Judaism, other...
Yeah, I understand. But it's also, I want to know, not only do Reform conservatives don't want to do it, but there's also some Orthodox who don't want to do it. They say, how can we do it? It's barbaric, blah, blah, blah. Everybody wants to pick on this. The Rambam says, we'll have to do it, so deal with it. When Mashiach comes, we'll understand what the real relevance of korbanot are, and it won't just be a barbecue. So then we'll be more than happy to bring it. But at that... Even if we're not understanding, we still have the mitzvah to do it. So But the point is that the korban, just as I can't bring the korban without proper intent, otherwise it's disgusting. We also learned about prayer. We learned this recently, I don't know if from the halacha or from here, I forget where it was already. But if I'm davening and I don't have intent, proper intent, it's disgusting. If I'm a little drunk, it's disgusting. It's despicable prayers. And what does a little drunk mean? I have 4 ounces of wine. I'm not drunk. Right. Purim. That's where we learned it from. Purim. So I'm not drunk.
4 ounces?
4 ounces. You're not supposed to drink. You're not supposed to daven after having 4 ounces. You're supposed to walk around a little, get rid of that. Right, you get rid of that.
Just a little bit.
That's why you shouldn't come into prayer eating, by the way. We're not in the shacharis for morning prayers. You're not supposed to be eating before shacharis. Now, in the early morning when we wake up for a normal day, it's not such a problem. No. I don't know who's really getting up at 6 a.m. or whatever to get to shul and has to eat. But if somebody's sick, we're not talking about sick people. Yeah. We're talking about people who are healthy. So if a healthy person should not be eating. So now it comes to Shabbos. If you have a late meeting starting at 9:30, or if you're Lubavitcher 10, or whatever it's going to be, then it's really hard. You're miserable by the time you're starting to daven. So, and you also don't have intent. So that's why the Hasidim and others will say that you can have a little bit to eat, like a coffee without, coffee without milk, and so on and so forth. You're supposed to have a black coffee, because if I would have milk or I would have sugar according to halacha, then it's for me per se. But whatever the case is going to be, I'm supposed to. Some people have a little cake. Yeah. That's really good.
It just depends. In other words, if you know that by 11:30 or whatever, Kiddush time, if you're just going to be, I can't.
Well, there's another problem too, because I'm not allowed to fast on Shabbos. So, what is fasting considered if we go past Chatzot? Yeah. So I was in a shul where the rabbi liked to, what?
Here it's not a problem.
Oh, here, forget it. Here Chatzot is ridiculous. But it's Chatzot is 2:00. The rabbi can speak as long as he wants. But it's when I was in a shul, when I was in New York, I would go to visit my brother. So I would go to the shul. The rabbi spoke for about 20 minutes, I think it was 10, 20 minutes. And the problem was I started at 9:30. And the rabbi was speaking. So you're going to 12 o'clock at least.
You're on standard time, particularly.
Yeah. But it was already probably past Chatzot by the time he finished. And so there I would davke have a little something to eat before I went to shul, because I didn't want to be fasting on the Shabbos. So you had
9 o'clock in the morning. 12:15, 12:30.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. When it comes to that, then you have to start gauging what you're going to do. There I wasn't eating because I wanted. I was eating because I didn't want to be fasting.
So just a little piece of mazonas.
Correct. It's safe to. I didn't go crazy. I didn't have a whole meal based upon that. But that's what's going on here. So if you would, my point is that if I do anything incorrectly for the wrong reasons, that can turn out to be an abomination. So I can put my tefillin on, but example, I want to put my tefillin because I want to daven with Shemona Esrei with the group. What happens? I have to go to the bathroom. But I want to daven Shemona Esrei. And I want to feel b'tzira. I want to be really firm about it. Oh, tremendous. Okay. The whole prayer, as we learned, was an abomination. I have to repeat the prayer. So not only do I have 19 brachot that I said, the Vatala, in vain, but now I messed the whole thing up. I was abomination. I have bracha levatala instead of just taking off my tefillin, going to the bathroom, doing what I have to do, and then coming back. And then I missed tefillah b'tzibor. Very nice. I shouldn't do it. I should try not to do it, but I did. But at least it wasn't abomination. So that's my point is here that once you do anything else, he's speaking on Isaiah's. And via the Gemara was saying that Korbanos is less important than Tefillah, or however you want to look at that, those words. Yeah. But the point is that either one can become an abomination too. There's a direct correlation between them. But that's, by the way, the reason I read through this is because I think people have to start, besides going through Tanakh again, which is what we're doing on Mondays and Thursdays anyway, but really to understand how the rabbis understand in context what's going on. Because when you're going through the Gemara, they give you 3-4 words, and they expect the reader to know what's behind that. So really, I'm giving you a method that when you're learning Gemara, you should always go back to the main source and see what was going on in the main source.
And they give you that reference.
Right.
Back to
Go back. Take a few minutes. Go back, see what's going on, and then you'll understand Tanakh in a much nicer way, and it won't just be that we hear it for Haftorah and not know what's going on. There's really a very powerful statement from Isaiah going on about Tefillah and about Karbanos here. Oh, and there's another thing that we're going to learn, so I don't want to close it. The last verse that we read, by the way, and now I'll just go to the Hebrew so you understand it even more. It said, Varishchem kapechem, and when you spread forth your hands, alim einamikem, I'm going to hide my eyes from you. Gam ki tarabu tefila eineni shemeh. Also, when you increase the prayer, I will not listen. Yet why? Yedechem damim maleu. Your hands are full of blood. In other words, you spilled innocent blood. So we're going to learn. Where is it? Right here. That Amar Rav Yochanan. So from that verse, Rav Yochanan said, Kol Kohen, any Kohen, Shaharag et HaNefesh, that killed a person, whether by accident or whether on purpose, Lo Yisa et Kapav, he is not allowed to duchen anymore. Even though that we have a biblical obligation, as Kohanim have a biblical obligation to join in and bless the congregation. If you're in Israel on a daily basis, in the morning service, a person who has accidentally, a Kohen, who has accidentally or on purpose killed a person, he cannot duchen. He's forbidden to duchen. Why? Because of this verse. Shaneamar, because it says, Yedechem damim malayu. Your hands are filled with blood. And since Isaiah said it to them in general, that your hands God will not listen because your hands are filled with blood. This Kohen who killed somebody, again, by accident or on purpose, doesn't matter which way, he can no longer duchen. Ever. He's out. Okay? So that's a halacha that we don't give up on. That's still in the books. It's an interesting thing because you would think b'mezid, I understand he did it on purpose. Okay, so the guy's a murderer, but so he shouldn't be allowed to bless the people. But when it comes to an accidental murder, what did he do wrong? The answer is he put himself into a situation that he shouldn't have been, and so now he has to pay the penalty, and he loses out by that he no longer is allowed to duchen. I know that many people, after the Holocaust, they didn't want to duchen, Kohanim didn't want to duchen because they felt they weren't pure, whatever the case is going to be. So when I would see that, I always took out the halacha and said, it doesn't say pure of soul. It says you had to murder. Did you murder? Did you kill? If you didn't do either one of those, you're going to duchen. And so, I mean, they would or they would not. That was up to them in the end. But okay, so it also says, that's part one. So now next. V'yama Rav Elazar, so Rav Elazar said again, Miyom shecharav Beit HaMikdash, from the time that the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. Nin alu sha'arei tefillah, the gates of prayer were closed. Shneamar, as it says in Eicha, Gam ki ezak yishaveh shatam tefilati, that when where is it? The gates of here's it. Right. Hear my prayer, Hashem, give ear to my outcry, to my tears, be not. I'm sorry, I went too far. Though I cry out and plead, he shut out my prayer. That's what it means. Gam ki ezak, when I cry, shaveya shatam tefilati, he will shut out my prayer. Fine. So he says, "V'af al pi shesharei tefillah nin'alu." But even though that the gates of prayer have been locked, sha'arei dim lo nin'alu. The gates of tears have not been locked. Shneimar, as it says, "Shem'at tefillati Hashem shavati ha'azina el dim'ati al techarash." Listen or hear my prayer, Hashem. Give ear to my outcry, to my tears. Be not deaf. So here's another famous thing that we have, that it says that the gates of prayer. First of all, how many gates of prayer are there? You ready for this? The Gemara says there are 13. 13 gates of prayer. 12 gates of prayer, and each gate was for each tribe. In other words, each one of the tribes had a specific gate that they, as it were. Okay, it's all as it were.
In other words, what that means, like an opportunity for that prayer to be
right. So they had their method. They had their method of how they had to approach Hashem. So there are 12, and it says further in that Gemara, if Bnei Binyamin would try to use the gate of Bnei Yosef, it would not work. Okay, it's a very interesting, strange Gemara. Nonetheless, the Gemara exists. And I'm not looking at that Gemara right now, so we'll wait till I get there.
You said it would be like a certain type of prayer, a certain method of praying, or
right,
whatever the combination
Correct.
used.
Correct. A different nusach, if you will.
Oh.
So what happens is we learn. So that's why, by the way, people to this very day, halachically, are not supposed to change their nusach. If I have a specific nusach, such as Ashkenaz, and you have your Sfard, then we should not be interchanging.
I've heard before that nusach Sfard is a higher madrega, so the person could go in that direction, but not reverse.
I'm sure that every Sfard says that.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not sure Ashkenaz would say that. Anyway, both are holy. The Lubavitch Nusach Ari, really Nusach Ari, sure they're Lubavitch, but Nusach Ari was supposed to be the combination of everything, the final thing. And he was going for the 13th gate.
Was that Chabad?
I'm saying the Ari. They based on the Ari, they claim, but Chabad. Chabad claims that they have the 13th gate, which is the catch-all prayers. Okay, everybody can go through the 13th gate because that's not specific to the other ones, and that's basically Sharei Dim. I'm guessing in their minds that would be the gate of tears. So what happens is basically what we're learning from this is again lehalacha. If I am Ashkenaz, and that's what my tradition is, I should not be going to Sfard. And if I'm Sfard, I should not be going to Ashkenaz. And if I'm Ari, I guess I shouldn't be going to anybody else either. Okay, I should. Wait, let me just finish. So certainly, I can. This is a guarantee. This is how we rule. If I'm davening in a place that is not my nusach, and I'm leading the prayers, I must use their nusach. I have no right to impose my nusach on them. That's something else. But at the same time, if I'm not leading prayers, I can daven my nusach. When it comes to certain prayers, I should. There's an argument like tefillah. Shemona Esrei, there's a whole argument out there as to what I should say, but we basically, I think Rav Moshe was ruling that we can say our own for Shemona Esrei. But when it comes to other things that are out loud, so I don't want to be mafresh, I don't want to separate myself from the Kehillah, so then I follow them. So when I go to Nusach Sfard, I don't say Aleinu in a normal place. They first say the Yom, then they say something else and something else. So when it comes to that, I just follow their things. I don't want to go out of order.
What about Psuke de Zimri?
Nobody's really listening to that.
Okay, so you can say it quietly enough.
Right.
You're still making the words, but you're still quiet enough.
And on top of that, that's not really part of Psuke de Zimri was really the prelim. So, I mean, however you want to say the prelim, because what happens, I came in late recently to HSC,
Yeah.
So whatever the thing was. So what happened? They were about 1 minute or 2 minutes away from Yishtabach.
Yes.
So I told my son, gave him practical halacha. I said, at this point, just say Baruch Shamar Asher Yishtabach. Catch up with them, because again, the main thing is to say Shemona Esrei with the kihila, and we could easily catch up to do that. So that's what you do. On the other hand, if I have more time, you have to say more things. So the halacha doesn't really, care that much. That if I'm walking into a situation, if I'm going to follow this, if I'm going to say Hodu first versus Baruch Shema, it really doesn't pick on that. As compared to the other stuff, it does pick on.
It's not a question. So, growing up in St. Louis, the Eastern European immigrants, every shul that was established early on,
right,
1880, 1920 period, all the Nusach Sfard, the Ashkenazim from Eastern Europe, but Davin Nusach Sfard.
Right.
I never learned that growing up because by the time they got to me, our families had already switched to the conservative, and they do strictly Nusach Ashkenaz, and that's what I learned.
Correct.
Growing up. So how does that affect somebody like that?
Well, you said they were doing Sfard growing up?
No. No, the Orthodox, but I didn't grow up.
Right, but I'm saying
I grew up in the conservative shul.
But you come from where? Where does your family come from originally?
Ukraine.
Okay.
But I'm saying all the Orthodox shuls there. So it was a family, yeah. But all the early on established Orthodox shuls from the people that originally came, which my grandparents on both sides actually came in that period of time.
So they would have been Sfard, you're saying?
If my parents' generation had stayed with,
as a Baal Teshuvah, you get to go with the shul you join. So you go with Ashkenaz at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
Most people are doing Ashkenaz. If you would be in New York, then you would probably fall into the Sfard. Because most of them are Sfard.
The Orthodox shuls.
Yeah.
But if the family had changed to conservative, all the conservatives strictly Ashkenaz.
No, but we don't consider. We're not looking at that. No, we really don't. We don't because unless they're using the Birnbaum, which they don't use anymore either.
Yeah.
They use their own. So we don't really look at their nusach. So we're saying, okay, you went off the derech for a little while, or you were never on the derech until you came back on the derech, whatever the case is. So now once you come in, so we're saying, where did you come from originally? Where do you feel like with me? Okay. I don't hold 6 hours between meat and milk. I only hold 3.
That's German.
Because I'm German. Yeah. But so what? My father came from Germany, and they weren't from. So because I know I came from German background, and the truth is, it was crazy. We held 4 hours when I was growing up. I don't know why we got 4 hours out of this, but okay, I have to increase something. But that's my father brought over 4 hours, and when I found out it was 3 hours, so I went to 3 hours. They only 4 hours. I'm not sure where the 3 hours came from. I don't know where 4 hours came from.
Our family originally came from Eastern Europe.
So then I would say that it was only Anshe Sfard, by the way. It was only Anshe Sfard. Really, Ashkenazim. They were all Ashkenazim.
Right.
But it was Anshe Sfard. They were that's not Sfardi, by the way.
No,
you have three. You have 3 basic. Sorry.
Yeah, even though that's
you have 3 basic nuschaot going on. You have Ashkenaz, you have Sfarad, and then Sfaradi. Okay, so Sfaradi is not Sfarad. Sfarad is very close to Ashkenaz. Actually, they're really together. The Sfaradi is very far apart. When I had a friend who was Nusach Sfaradi, he saw what we were doing. He was like, "You guys are not Jewish." He said, "I don't know where you came up with this stuff, but you're not Jewish." And when he saw Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, he told his father, and he was speaking French to him. He said, "Dad, do not try to figure these people out. Just daven what you normally daven. Forget it. They're not one of us." But that's what it was. They were totally different.
Wow.
And that's so when you come to Eastern Europe, because of the Nusach Ari, so that's again they're trying to combine things. That is where you came up with all these different changes, and that's why Nusach Sfarad and Ashkenaz are not that far apart.
Yeah.
They only mix a couple of things and change a couple of words here and there.
Most of the Orthodox, the old line Orthodox schools in St. Louis are what I see on the Siddur is called just Nusach Sfard.
Right.
There's one shul that's not Chabad that davens Nusach Ari.
Right. Interesting enough, Sfard, Nusach Sfarad, and Ari, the Lubavitch, they're so close and yet so far away. They also change words. So here I was, when I was in Bangor, we daven Nusach Sfard.
Oh, but okay, the Nusach Sfard you're saying in the Western world is not like it is in Israel.
I don't know Israel.
Well,
I'm not sure Israel. Israel, that's a different thing now. Now they have Rinus Yisrael. I don't know what they do. It's another combination. So that's a Nusach Israel. I don't know. But what I'm saying is when I was in Bangor, so we do have a Nusach Sfard. Sfarad. Okay, fine. So here I had to lead services, so I was doing 7 years in a row. I knew Nusach Sfarad. Very good. Okay. And then when I would come to Ashkenaz, so there was enough of a break in between the two that I actually had to look at the words in Nusach Ashkenaz. I knew I had to look because we don't say a lot of things. We don't say V'yaspa v'karim misheiche. We don't have a lot of. We say Shema Kolenu and not Avarachim Shema Kolenu. So you have to really watch it. When I went into Lubavitch to daven, they changed. They're very similar until certain words. Then they throw words out or they add words.
Yeah.
And you really have to. It's so much harder to daven that than davening going from Sefarad to Ashkenaz. Mamish is crazy because you really have to be so medayik. So it's not such a bad thing, but you have to be very careful in what you're saying because you could be changing their nusach.
Yeah. And
you don't have a right to change anybody's nusach. So you have to just do it. But like I said, my nusach never changed. I was always Ashkenaz. I was just went straight Ashkenaz. And even if I wasn't leading in Bangor or I was saying Mashman Esrei, I would say Ashkenaz. But then when I had to lead, so I would just do theirs. No big deal. And which is why when I came here, when I started to lead here, it was also difficult again because even though I always daven Ashkenaz, it was always silently. It was never publicly. Yeah. So my mouth was on public, what do you call it? It was tuned to the public, if you will. It was automatic public, is compared to automatic private. You have that. I can't describe it. You know how to describe it, Bill? When you do certain things privately, but when you're doing it publicly, your mouth doesn't give the same words.
Out loud.
Yeah. It doesn't. You can because you get trained to do the other words.
Yeah.
So you slip. You keep slipping into the other thing, and again you have to watch. You have to watch very carefully. But that's really the difference of the nusach. That nusach is what would make the difference of prayer, and that's why if the nusach, according to the Gemara, if I davened with the wrong nusach, then my gate is locked, and since we lost all those nuschaot, we lost all of them. Through dispersion and so on and so forth. And then the destruction of the temple that solidified it. So they're all locked now. The only one that's left open is the gate of tears. And it says that Hashem himself, as it were, went around and was locking everything except for that one. That one, he himself opened up so that, right, he says, this is H. Yosef. He says, Oto Petach, Shum Malach Mamona. There was no malach or appointee that could open the gates. Ki im HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmo u'chavodo. Only Hashem himself and his honor could open the gates. Kisher tefillah hi ola lamala. When the prayer would go up, Az Yoshi Likrata, Ofan Echad Ushmo Yirachna. So then, he would go up, as it were, and he would accept the prayer. He would hear the prayer, and so on and so forth. Again, hearing the prayer doesn't mean he's going to grant the request. It just means he's going to listen. And that's the only way to do it is through that gate. And we'll have to stop there.